Welcome to Collaboration Conversations. I am your host, Regina Partain Bergman, CEO of Bridgeport Strategy. If you've been watching us at all, you know that I love bringing on guest co hosts and having a conversation with them and the folks that they've invited to the show around collaboration and how we change the world through collaboration. Today is no different. I have a wonderful guest co host with me that I'd like to introduce you to right now, my friend Jean Francois from Canada. And he is a marketing consultant with Turn It Up Live Media. I love that name, by the way, Jean. And he helps owners, business owners, and entrepreneurs to achieve their goals by leveraging the power of digital marketing. And boy, who doesn't need that today, right? Welcome to the show, Jean.
Oh, thank you so much, Regina. I'm so glad that I'm here and everyone that's listening in. I'm so glad that you joined us today because it's going to be a powerful topic. We got a lot of things going on that I want to discuss today.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I am so glad that you agreed to be our guest co-host today. Would you please take a few moments and share with folks a bit about your journey? What's brought you to this place in life, who you serve, and why that's important to you?
Definitely. And as you mentioned, I'm a digital marketer. Been in business for a while now, but for me, it was always figuring out like, what am I good at, right? I haven't really been good at a lot of things in my life. My mom was always like, yo, Jean, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be a doctor, you have to be something in the marketplace. But I was like, man, I can't be a doctor. I don't know how to do that. I could be a lawyer, but I don't know how to do all that thing. I don't really want to be a lawyer. So I was always figuring out what am I actually good at. Well, one thing was actually connecting with people and actually understanding like, hey, like how can I help them achieve their goals, right? And lucky for me, I was around a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, and I was able to help a few of them actually, brand themselves, get their visibility out into the marketplace, especially nowadays with the whole thing of social media. So now I actually serve a lot of business owners that are local and online business owners as well, help them bring their brand and visibility out with their services and products.
I love it. I love it. As I mentioned, there's such a huge need for that, and many of us are not gifted in that arena. I know one of my shortcomings is that the eye of the artist, if you will. So the other day I was creating something in Canva for my business, and I was proud of what I had created. I brought my husband in to look at it, and he said, "Well, how about if you do this and you do this?" And it was so much better after implementing everything that he suggested, because he has that eye.
Mm.
He gets art. He's a poet. He gets art. He's artistic, and I'm just not. I always tell people I'm crafty. I like to make crafts, but I'm not artsy.
Well, we can all be artistic in a way, right? Because
In our own way,
definitely
absolutely.
somebody might not be like a painter, but they might be very good at placing things together in their home, or for example, decorations and things like that, right? So
Good
we all
point.
have some skill
We
sets.
have it there somewhere, right?
100%.
But what we don't have, we need to reach out and get help with, right? And that's where you come in, is for a lot of folks, I'm sure. John, would you please introduce Joy and have her share a bit about her journey, who she serves, and why? And Joy, I'm not sure if your camera is off on purpose or not, but we
I
cannot
don't,
see you at this
I
moment.
don't.
Oh, might have some technical issues there.
And yeah, she's having a bit of technical issues, so we'll bring her back in as soon as she gets that resolved, folks. So, tell us a little bit about how what you and how you enjoy Connect. Where's oh, okay, she's back. So we're gonna bring her back on stage here. So, Sean,
Sorry about
please introduce Joy.
Yes, so we have Joy Germany that's joining us here. That coming from the long line of workers as well in the 9 to 5 area, right? And definitely working with CPA, you definitely have a lot of financial side of things in place in there, and money is always a big topic. So Joy, just let the people know a bit about yourself and what you do.
that. Okay. Hey, I'm Joy Germany. I am originally from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, but I currently reside in the Dallas Fort Worth, Texas area in a little town called Little Elm, Texas. It's not really a small town, but it kind of sounds like it is. Uh, I am a mother of two grown daughters, and I have five grandchildren that are absolutely amazing. Um, I got into this after spending about 35 years in financial executive roles in companies such as Campbell Soup and Greyhound, all in Fortune 500. Deloitte and Touche was the first company that I worked for when I came out of college. And I was the first Black person that worked in the whole state of Oklahoma. And
Wow.
from there, I went to work for companies like PepsiCo. I was a regional controller for Campbell Soup, finance director for Raytheon Aircraft, and over compliance and operations for a company called Smurfit Kappa, which just recently merged with WestRock here in the United States. Smurfit Kappa is located over in England, Ireland, and now they're the biggest company in the world. However, back in January, I resigned to start teaching other people the skills of running businesses. I have had the privilege of mentoring and training and coaching hundreds of controllers and general managers to manage multi-million-dollar operations across the world. And I thought it's about time that I started helping some individuals get their business started and we get a piece of that pie. So that's kind
I
of just
love it.
basically it.
And I love
I,
that,
yeah.
especially like when it comes to having that long background of different, positions that you've held, like you have a vast majority of people who actually want to have as knowledge, right? So like, how do you even implement that in coaching? Like, how does that work in your coaching
Ah,
session?
Well, actually, I actually meet a person where they are. They could be a person that's just starting, has no idea how to start a business. What is the correct format for them to start up, depending on what they're going to do, and then also find out where their gaps is what we call it in my industry. I don't know if that's what everyone else calls it, but where are their gaps, and then see where I fit in. Recently, it's mostly been helping people actually monetize their passions or their dreams or what they've been wanting to do, or something that they've done in the corporate arena, bring it into the entrepreneurial ship arena, and have been quite successful at it. So me myself, I have been an entrepreneur prior to this. I also had 7 years owning a real estate and mortgage company. I am a licensed CPA. However, I no longer practice publicly anymore because I'm doing the coaching and so forth. However, it's all been advantageous. So depending where my clients are at, that's where I meet them.
that's awesome. Which makes me think of maybe our first question here is that you have such a wealth of experience there, Joy. I mean, just
Thank you.
tremendous level of experience there. How are you using that to collaborate with people like Jean, with people like your clients, with other companies? How are you using that experience to form collaborations?
Well, to form collaboration, of course, I do it through networking. And generally, when people find out what I do, then they want me to collaborate with them, talking about the business side or the money side and so forth. That's usually what I get questions about. I get a lot of people that want me to do their taxes. I don't do taxes.
Noted. No taxes. Okay.
And I say that it's just not my fun spot. When I was an
Right.
intern for Deloitte while I was in college, mind you, I took 21 hours, but I was also an intern with them and I worked in the tax department. And as I was going through school, I worked for a small CPA firm. So I definitely have a lot of tax experience, but where I really thrive is in the audit side. And it originally was in the accounting side. I thought at one point I wanted to be a CFO, but after bumping my head on that so many times, I kind of settled back into the compliance area, which
Right.
which I'm just a queen at. I call myself a queen. My boss used to call me the Terminator. He didn't want to have to send anybody to my office if they were doing something wrong. I said, the Terminator. He's like, yeah, that's what we call you behind your back. But but generally it's in those things. And ultimately, what I really would like to start helping individual entrepreneurs with is understanding where they have holes in their understanding of finance, because I want them to understand. Generally, entrepreneurs may have an accountant do their books, or a CPA, or someone like that, or grandma, somebody like that. but you don't know if it's right. And
Right.
you hear about so many entertainers or sports people that get taken advantage of. I want to teach people how to do a junior audit on their books. And then
Love
that's
it.
what they keep their own. And the reason why I thought about that years ago is because Oprah Winfrey, which we know she has a lot of money, she still looks at every check that goes out of her account.
Yes.
And so the best way for you really to make sure you don't get taken advantage of is to look at your
Yes.
information, but also have at least a basic understanding. And so
Agreed.
that's where I seem to thrive the most for me. But really it's where whatever my clients need, where they if they have no understanding, then I take them down that track. And so it really depends on who I collaborate with or the
Hmm.
client themselves.
And Joy,
Right.
you mentioned something good about that, like the basic understanding, right? Because I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of my clients as well. Like they're in the starting point, or they're at that point where they're actually like getting a lot of money in, right? But when it comes to that basic understanding, like what does that look like? What is the basic?
Well, one of the bases, like what you said, hold on 1 second. You said that they have lots of different, let's say, for instance, I have one client that has several different streams of revenue, but they also still have a lot of things that they do on their personal side. It is important that we don't commingle funds. It is important that we understand how we invoice and that we get our collections in, what we do in terms of collections, understanding your basic financial statements. But the key is really understanding cash flow. That's why
Hmm.
a lot of entrepreneurs go broke. Sometimes you're
Yeah.
self-funded and they don't understand that you may need to get funding before you run out of money. You definitely need to understand your cash flow. And so that's one of the biggest points of the basics that I try to make sure people understand.
I think one of the statistics is that somewhere between 80 and 90% of businesses that go out of business cite lack of cash flow
It's like a
as the number one reason they had to close their doors.
yes, yes. That's why
Yeah.
they have to close. Or in the second
Yeah.
would be people stealing their money. But if they were
That's
watching
true
their
too.
money and their
Yeah, they
cash
need to
flow,
be
that
watching it.
would not
Exactly.
happen.
Yep.
So
Yep. And that's, you can delegate a lot of things,
true,
but
true.
ultimately you need to know what's happening with your money, with your,
It's funny that you say that because when you say delegate a lot of things, coming onto this side of the arena
right?
and being in corporate so long, and the last time that I had my own business was 15 years ago. So I had to learn the new thing of social media,
Right? Right?
YouTube, and those type of things. And so I said, oh, I'll just delegate it. Well, I myself got burnt by delegating. And so
Ah,
that's one of the first things that I also train. You need to know, just like in business, I always knew my teams. I knew
right.
exactly what they did. I knew how they should be doing it. I'm the spokes. I'm the captain, but you're all a part of the team, the crew, and so
Right.
I want to know exactly what each crew member did.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important when you are delegating anything dealing with your entrepreneurial business,
Yeah.
especially social media now with so much cyber attacks and those type of criminal things. You want to know exactly how those work as well. Now you may not do
Right.
it, and I'm not a big advocate of you doing everything, because if you do everything yourself, you cannot grow.
Yes. Correct.
Mhm.
But as business owners or supervisors, I think a lot of times we have a tendency to give an assignment with an expectation, but we omit the inspection part
Inspection.
that needs,
It's
so we not only to expect but inspect.
right. And
Yeah,
sometimes we don't give instruction. We just say, go do it.
it's true. Just go do it.
And a lot of times I find out that's because that person, that manager doesn't know themselves and they're
Yeah,
just trusting in their employees, which is
yeah,
nothing wrong with that. But you as the captain of the ship need to know how to run the ship. So that's
exactly.
that's, that's where my philosophy is.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
And when it comes to even like running the ship, right? Because you're exactly right. When it comes to delegating, sometimes we just want to throw money at things and say, hey, just get it done. I just really just want to just have it up and
yeah,
running. Don't really want to think about it, right?
Yeah.
right.
Although a lot of times I suffer from this, I won't even look at like how much impact it has on my actual long-term revenues. When
Yes.
I'm always just delegating and just hiring. Like, where is that balance where we
Well,
Yeah,
actually?
And I like that too. You know, you have to find that individual, how comfortable you are, how big your organization is. But you know, you when you keep the stats in the analysis. Now, one part it would be looking at your revenues against your expenses. That's the simple accounting stuff. But what a
Right.
lot of people don't look at is things like the podcast. Did that bring you any new clients? Did that give you any more exposure? Did you learn anything
Right.
new? Or are you just wasting time? And
Right.
time is the most valuable commodity that we have. So it's all going back into the analysis piece. And when you get to a point where you feel like you're making enough money, whatever your goal is, and we got to have goals, but when you have that goal that you get to a point where you can go to the next level to hire another person, to me, it's not necessarily when you become positive. It really is when you become comfortable with an area that you're comfortable enough to let go.
I let go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you brought up
It's,
a really important point, and that's those KPIs, those key performance indicators.
Mhm.
That whatever area of our business, then we need to have those in place so that we can monitor the success or lack thereof of the various initiatives that we put in place, right?
yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's absolutely correct.
Definitely. And Regina, you can chime in a bit more about your background as well, because we didn't really hear that. So I want the audience to have a good understanding of who you are as well.
So, sure, I'll happily put in a little bit there. So, I am a business coach slash consultant. Uh, I've been focusing a lot for the last few years on profit acceleration and exit strategy, helping businesses to make sure that they've got everything in place in their business so that when they're ready to do something else, they have some options. They have a business that they can either sell or they can hire someone to come in and run that business. But so many small business owners never get to that option place because they don't know how to build. It's not their fault. They don't know. Nobody's out there teaching them, and if you don't know what you don't know, who do you ask? Right? And what do you ask?
Mhm.
You just don't know. And that's where coaches come in handy and consultants. Um, but I'm also serving corporate clients, CEOs, uh, who are maybe struggling with the overwhelm, the lack of cohesiveness in their organization, the stress of trying to do everything that they need to do. And I have taken on a business partner in this realm, and we are creating a new product that is called the CEO Holy Grail. And so Holy Grail is an acronym for all of the various services that we can provide for them. And so very excited about the work that's moving forward in that and being able to really help companies be more profitable in the long run because they have an organization that's fine tuned and their systems are in place. Their people are working well together. They've got great communication. The leadership is there at every level, that kind of thing. So bringing all of that in. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
If you don't mind, I want to chime in there just a minute because Regina,
Sure.
when you said you took me back to the days when I had my mortgage company, and what I
Okay.
didn't have was a coach. So I
Yeah.
basically taught myself what to do. And I was great as I'm gonna just say it. I was great as a mortgage loan officer. But it was because and I didn't really care for the real estate side. I love real estate, but I didn't like I got to take people around, I got to deal with the children and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was missing that finance piece, which is so much of my core.
Right.
But I came out of it in 2008 when we had the big banking debacle. And
Hmm.
what I didn't have at that time is someone like you. How do I pivot? What's
Yeah.
next? I should have already
Right.
been working on pivoting and keeping my customer relationship management software up to date because I could have continued on. What did I
Right.
do? I got afraid, which many of us do when we start
Oh
seeing
yeah.
changes in the market, we don't
Absolutely.
understand it, or we don't have a backup plan, we don't have a plan B.
Yeah.
And I went back to accounting. I went back to my core
Yeah.
accounting. But you know what's funny? It took me 15 years to come back to the amount
Come
of
back.
income that I profited
Yeah.
being my own boss, basically,
Right.
uh, in the corporate arena. That was
Yeah.
my profit 15 years ago, became my base this year. this past
Gotcha.
couple of years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
I
after
do.
15, and it takes you. So people think that they can work themselves to death and save themselves to death to get rich.
Yeah.
You can do it if you're working for yourself. And I am a true
Yeah.
believer. Now, there's a few CEOs, CFOs, and so forth that can do that, but there's not that many of those positions.
Yeah.
And for me, because of that, that's glass ceiling would never break for me. So I decided to break it myself and
There you
become
go.
my own CFO and CEO,
Yeah.
but also taking all the learnings. The 15 years wasn't lost because I started thinking, okay, next time I do it, I'll do it this way. Next time I'll make sure I have mentors and coaches, which I have
Learn from it. Yeah.
7, 10 of those, I think. I have several mentors and coaches on different things, but
Yeah.
that has made the difference, and that has made it for me to be able to ramp up a lot quickly.
Yeah.
Because
Shorten that
I
learning
left
curve.
in June. I told them I was leaving in January. My official day to leave was May 31st. June 7th, I was in Houston speaking at the International Houston Chamber of Commerce. I was
Nice.
interviewing one of the astronauts that walked on the moon originally, and I also spoke at NASA. I go to
Very nice.
Vegas at the end of the month to interview with TV producers to get on local TV stations to start promoting exactly what I do or how it can help the community. Those are things that I knew nothing about. I didn't know about collaborating, none of those things,
Right.
collaborating on a business sense. And
Yeah.
these are tools that I've gained that you need to have as an entrepreneur, if you want to stay in the game long term.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And there's learning how to collaborate and recognizing the value of that is just
Priceless.
priceless. Thank you. You made me think of, though, you mentioned 2008, and I had a staffing firm for 12 and a half years. And we went out of business March of '09 because of the crash of 2008. And like you, just didn't know what else to do. And that's a lot of what drives me is that I don't want others going through what I went through. I always say my greatest success was my greatest failure. That was,
Absolutely.
we were doing well, and then we were gone. It was over.
How long
But
did it
you
take you
can't
to
keep a good entrepreneur down.
No, no, no. That's going to say, how long did it take you to get back in the game or get
It was
started?
about 2 years.
Same.
I for the next 2 years, I did mostly service work in my community, in my church, that kind of a thing. And then I was ready to get back in the saddle again.
Wow.
And so my husband and I, there's a funny story behind it, but we don't have time for it. But we bought a home on Lake Bridgeport. I was talking to you about Lake Bridgeport before the show. We
Mhm.
bought a home on Lake Bridgeport and turned it into a bed and breakfast.
Oh,
And so I ran a bed and breakfast there for 5 years. And during that period of time, also discovered coaching in terms of wanting to be a coach, because I've always felt that part of my purpose in life was to help others achieve their full potential.
absolutely.
And that's been something that's been with me as long as I can remember. And so coaching allows me to do that.
Wow.
That's awesome. And what I've noticed from both sides is that during that crisis, right, you both came up with like an idea, right? And you pretty much went out after 2 years. You're like, man, I have to
Yep.
get this idea out
Yep.
there, right? And a
Yep.
lot of business owners are struggling with that, where they have an idea, but it's all about getting it out as fast as possible, right? Because
That's where you come in.
yeah, definitely. I appreciate noticing that. But I've seen that time and time again where it's like the fear, as you mentioned, the fear of taking
Yeah.
action sometimes holds us behind, right?
Yeah.
So it's like how did you both utilize like your inner confidence to bring that to life for your ideas?
Well, I can start. To be
Please.
honest, it took me my 2 years after the failure was looking for another corporate job, and it literally took me two
Oh, wow.
years to get back in there. And the week that I got on, I got on with Greyhound as their compliance and grant authoritative person management, and um, it was a week before I started that my car was repossessed, and I was about to lose my home. And thank God
Mm.
he came through. But you know what he did, what God also did the whole time, he's like, you got to get back, you got to get back, you got to get back. Because what I enjoyed about being in that, having a mortgage and a real estate a company, was that the joy that I see on someone's face for me helping them to get to their dream
Yeah.
is, again, priceless. And over these 15 years, I've helped several of my friends start their own businesses because I recognize just some talents that they have, and they would struggle here and there with corporate. I'm like, well, have you ever thought of, one of my best friends, she's really good at interior decorating. Have you ever thought about doing that yourself? You're great at it. The lady that used to do my eyelashes, I'm like, you working at this little shop and they work you to death all these hours. You got 2 young kids that you need to be around. It goes, why don't you start it on your own? And she did. So several, my brother, my sister, one of my nieces, one of my nephews, several of my friends, I've helped them to start their business.
That's awesome.
But for me, it was like, what are you waiting on? And I just was arguing with God that, what do they want to listen to me for? I mean, I'm coaching. I didn't see myself as a coach at that time. Really didn't see myself as a consultant at that time. Really wasn't taking into account that you have been coaching and training business management, senior level, even a CFO at the level to run major $1 billion companies. You've been doing it. I also used to work for Charles Koch, Koch, one of the richest men in the world. And he taught me market-based management. I went to him after I worked for Deloitte & Touche, and I used to be a trainer for him. And the way that came about was I was first put in control of accounts receivable. And I noticed that it was about 30 ladies that were, or people, I should say, mostly ladies that was on my team. And most of them had never had one basic accounting course. And so they were struggling with their roles. So for lunchtime, I called it Accounting 101. And for free, I taught them accounting so that they can understand their job, but not only understand that role, but get other roles within the company. It's always my goal for you to work me out of a job or for you to get a different job. Really want you to work me out of my job so I can get my next level. But if not, get you another job. Or to learning how to write resumes. I taught classes on that, and he heard about it, and he came to meet me. Now, who gets to really talk to the CEO, somebody that, even though I work for him, this is a huge corporation, and he was very interested in the fact that I was teaching on my own, wasn't getting paid extra for it, and he was about to put a training together internally himself based on his book, Market-Based Management. So I became a trainer for him for a while. But for some reason, all of those things kind of left me because of the fear of, number one, getting in front of people, getting on a stage, getting on a webinar, recording myself terrified me. And I have no idea why, but it was a lack of confidence. And so I had to stop talking negative to myself. They don't want to talk to you. They don't, who are you? You are a coach. You're good. You know what you're talking about. So you can help somebody. And my ultimate
look at you now
is always to help somebody get better. That just makes me so happy to make somebody else get better.
Absolutely.
So everywhere I go, even yesterday I had physical therapy on one of my fingers, and it was a lady there, and she looked like she was struggling with some test. And she said, "Oh, I just got to get this test." I said, "What are you testing for?" And she's testing to be a life coach. I said, "Wow." And so then she told me she had like 20 years of experience, I think, in supply management. I said, "Well, then you're probably eligible to do a coaching now without having to do the class." Well, right now she's fixed on, I just got to do this because I don't think they'll believe it. It's a confidence issue.
Sure.
I met her 2 days ago. I take that back. I met her 2 days ago. Well, this morning she called me. She called me. And she said, I got to listen to what you were saying, and you're right, because we talked the whole time through our therapies. And somebody else came over in the gym, and he was over there getting some consultation too.
Yeah.
I never meet a stranger that, that I don't figure out a way to talk them into thinking about what is your purpose, what is your dreams, what are you good at, what are you trying to accomplish, and how can you get there the fastest? Because for me, I am 59 years old.
59 years young.
Young.
That's
there
right.
you
That's
go.
right.
59 years young. Absolutely.
But there, in reality, is more years behind me than there are before me. And one thing that I always think about is my dad. He was an engineer. We were all during the civil rights ages and all that when they were first coming over. And he and my mom were people that were able to, they had some college, but they were able to get jobs to make some pretty good middle incomes back in the day. And I thought about, he worked hard. The company gave retirement, but he also put into an individual 401k plan, which was new back then. He didn't have to do it, but he did it anyway. Used to burn my mother up that he did that. But my mother wasn't good with money. But when
there came the day she was happy, right?
Well, my mom, once he took it, my dad took care of everything, and she could keep her money for herself, but she was always trying to get in his little pocket. Rest part. rest both of them in peace. They're both gone. But my dad, he had a stroke. He retired at 60. He had a stroke 5 years later. And the last 15 years of his life, he spent in and out of rehab homes. He never could speak completely. He lost vision in one of his eyes. He didn't have the life that he used to have.
Right.
So I, at that time, said, you got to enjoy life now. That when you see something be posted, I always put enjoy life now, but I spell enjoy INJOYE because my
love
name
it.
is JOYE. And I've always said that. And I said, if there is something you need to do, you need to figure out a way to do it. If you want to go to Paris, you need to figure out a way to do it, because you have no guarantee that you're going to be here tomorrow, but you darn sure don't have a guarantee that by the time you're 60, 70, 80, when you decide to quit working, that you can even walk around Paris.
Yeah.
So for me is, if you have that dream that I was fighting with God in my head for, stop fighting with him. He's going to win, and just move forward. Step forward, even if it's not full time. Do something part time that feeds your dream, that feeds your passion, that you can do.
Absolutely,
100%. You hit it right there. Like, oh wow, I love that, and I hope the audience you also enjoy what Joy just shared with us, because wow. But Regina, on your side, like same question, the confidence. Like, how did that come about for you?
Oh, good question. It's, and it's not an event, it's a journey. Confidence is a journey, and it's made up of multiple parts. So it's that taking action, taking the risks, actually getting out there and doing something, right? If we just lock ourselves in our bedroom somewhere, we're never going to have that confidence, right? We have to actually get out and do. It's affirmations. It's having a positive mindset. It's surrounding yourself with people who are confident, who believe in you and support you. And so it's a journey. It's not an event at all. But I wanted to say, one of the things that I think I heard from you, Joy, is that part of the way that you collaborate is is helping one individual who then goes out, and you're a part of that ripple effect, right? As they are successful, you're part of the ripple effect. Yes. And so your collaboration with the one impacts many. And I think that's so important for people to understand, that a collaboration just doesn't impact, if the three of us collaborate, it's not just us, but we change the world in multiple ways by the people that we interact with.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I learn something from everyone that I meet. Something a little.
Absolutely.
And it's really one of my goals. My grandmother used to say, if you learn something new a day, God gives you one more day at the end. So I try to learn something every day.
I like that. I like that. I've not heard that. I like that.
It's true, and I don't know. She might just been telling me that to feed my education. She was my first role model, to be quite honest. She told me I could do anything I wanted to do when I was 7 years old, and that still plays in my head to this day. And so nothing is even becoming a mom at 16. That didn't stop me. I was looking forward to going to any college of my choice, a straight A student, but chose to go ahead and be a mom. I stepped in an adult position, so I decided to take that on. And for me, I was wanting to be a lawyer back then. She said, you can be anything you want to, baby. I said, okay. And then I said, I got to get out of school a lot faster. because I want my daughter to have some of the things that I had coming up with, with my mom and dad, some of the sacrifices that they made. But it
Right.
was the best thing that I ever did. I had my baby, I got married, my husband and I decided to have our second when I was 20. He was in the Navy, and so he was gone a lot. So a lot of times it would be my baby over my lap with an accounting book on her back and the 4-year-old next to me
I love it.
doing seeing her preschool stuff, and we would just rock and roll. And from that, they both have become very, I believe, very successful women because they've always seen me doing something and taking risks. You got to take a risk.
Taking risks.
Before I went into real estate, it was the Mary Kay lady or the Avon lady or the Temple. I'm just not one of those ladies. I'm more this type of lady. But you always gotta. There's always been something in me to want something more than just the basics of anything.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of those drivers that is in you. You just got to let it come out.
Yeah.
And I shut mine down for a long time, just saying, hey, I did that. Then it failed for 2 years. It didn't fail. I failed.
You took a break.
I took a break, but I failed myself because I didn't really go all out to make sure that I could sustain it. Just like I've done some other things, I sustained my family, I sustained my education, all that kind of stuff. I didn't understand how to run my own business. Though I was teaching other people how to run businesses, but it was just in a sense. And I figured out back then that all businesses are basically the same. You got to be a salesperson regardless. You got to always be selling. Always be selling.
Always been selling. Yeah.
Even in the real estate. Then when I came back into accounting, I was a recruiter for accounting. That was the first. That was how I got connection to Greyhound. I left that part out early, but that's how I got connected. And it hit me then that you always got to be selling. You sell yourself.
Yes.
You go on a date,
Every
you
day.
sell yourself.
Every day.
Every day you sell yourself. And so you always got to be selling. I wish I knew what I knew back then.
It's a journey.
You know what? It's a journey, and it's the journey that I was supposed to go on. And once I got comfortable understanding that journey was my journey that I had to go through, it just wasn't clear to me. But once that became clear, I was off and running again. So I think that's what I like to tell a lot of people to you. You're going to have some down times. Even the richest people, they have downtime. Donald Trump has filed what he said, bankruptcy 2, 3, 4 times.
Yeah, at least 3. Yeah, at least 3. I know.
But he always seems to get back on top.
It gets back up. Yeah, absolutely.
Like him or not,
don't let life kick you down. Keep it's going to kick you.
Yeah, I'm sure I could have picked a lot of other people that have done something similar, but I always think about that person that once they've gotten down, how they got back up, and they just never quit. And you got to have that never
resilient
mentality. And then I do a lot on leadership. If you don't want to leave the corporate arena, you want to go ahead and go for that C-suite, I can help you with that too.
Cool.
Because I have a certification in leadership. So
fantastic. Jean, can you share a bit about your confidence journey?
Oh, definitely. For me, it was always self-confidence was a big factor for me, right? Like for me, I've always been around people that had kind of like doubts. My mom, single mom, did her best to raise me and my siblings, but it was always tough for her to just like focus on herself and us, right? It was either or, right? So she put a lot of emphasis on us, but when it came to actually like herself, there were a lot of doubts, right? Especially when it came to managing her own finances and things like that. So for me, it was always like looking at who can I really, like get inspiration from, or can kind of use as a guide for me to actually understand what it's like to like do the things that I want to do. And for the first couple of years, I didn't have that. It was only until I got into college and I started really going to the self-help books and really going into Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Those were my mentors at the time, right? I was going through those books and I was reading them, and I was like, man, these guys, they get it, man. They know what it's like, to fall behind and not really knowing the next step until they actually put it all in, right? Put all into yourself, as you all mentioned, take the risk. And from there, that's where they started seeing some results. So for me, it was always that. I was like, man, how do I do that for myself now? Well, hey, I jumped into this whole thing of entrepreneurship, right? Like many of us here, like, hey, start a business. You're like, okay, I started it. but now how do I actually do the thing, which is actually running the business, right? So building that confidence was like a slow process. The more I actually started getting on sales calls and actually, speaking to different people and understanding where they're at, I started building that confidence. Eventually, it started just going up, and that's where I found more of who I was. And now I can actually say, like, man, like I'm pretty good at this. I'm okay. I'm doing all right.
But even though we can say that, would you both agree that there are still places that we lack confidence?
Oh, absolutely.
It's a journey,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's a journey.
You make one conquer, like the conquerors. You conquer one piece of land and you go to the next one. And so once you get well in one space, then you just keep on healing yourself.
And you have to get out there and do it. Just like Joy, you were saying that you had that fear of getting in front of people, that lack of confidence relative to that. But then what did you just tell us? That you're speaking in different places, right? That you spoke at the International Chamber of Commerce and you're speaking at some, so you obviously at some point were able to use a metaphor, get on that horse and go.
Just do it. Just do it.
Do it.
Just to have the Nike sign on my head. Just do it. Just do it.
I have a question when it comes to because we're talking about collaboration as well, right?
Right.
And when I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, they're always thinking like, man, I have to get an accountant in my team, right? I have to really have somebody that knows the numbers. But a lot of the times I hear some bad feedback. So I'm like, man, that accountant, man, they didn't do the books correctly. Now I'm behind on this. And like, how do I actually confirm that? That's the right person to get in my team of collaborations.
I think that's a Joy question. Somebody just asked me that recently. And for me, I would say you interview an accountant like you would interview anybody else working in your organization. And a lot of people, even if you get a referral, that you, first of all, you need to make sure there's somebody that you can clearly communicate with, and they understand which way you want to go, and that your personalities match, but that they are you look at their reviews. Yeah. Look what to me, that's the best thing. You interview them just like you would interview somebody working for your company, because you got to think about it. You are technically handing them your checkbook. Yeah. And for me, if I'm handing you my checkbook, I'm gonna need to know something about you. I want to know your family. For me, I want to know who's your family. Like, what do you do? Yeah. How did you get here? What made you make this decision? What's your goal in life? Is this something you're gonna do for the rest of your time? Because an accountant can be a basic accountant. But it really, if you've got, there's one person that I know that has a lot of businesses. I said, really, you need to work with one of the bigger firms because your accounting is really complex. I wouldn't have it with just a general run-of-the-mill bookkeeper or accountant. Right. Even some CPAs, they don't keep up with it. I just have to take 40 hours a year. Some people don't do that. They may just take the bare minimum 20, come in and out. I'm always learning. You want somebody that is always learning in their field. Always learning, staying up to speed. And that's why I tell people I don't do taxes, because I don't keep up with all of the tax pieces of it. But I do keep up with all of the accounting and the audit sides of it, the compliance piece. The compliance supports the accounting part. So I can come in and tell you how to do your books all day long. But you need somebody like that. And if you're good with just basic tracking your skills, you could do that with an Excel spreadsheet, having a basic budget. That would be my first place to start. When that becomes overwhelming, I would start looking for an accountant. But I would definitely get referrals, but I would also check reviews. I would check, Better Business Bureau, and I would interview them myself, get a dummy test off of, now we got ChatGPT, and see if they could pass it. There's several companies I work for that we've tested accountants. You tell me you know how to do Excel, let me see. Yeah.
And I think down with them periodically is important too. At least
yes, absolutely.
It's not just get the reports and stick them in the book and stick them on the shelf. It's let's sit down and talk about this. Let's strategize about the business based on what you're seeing as the accountant.
And if you don't understand something, ask the question. Yes, I don't understand this. I don't understand how this works. If they're an accountant and they care about their clients, they will take the time to explain it to you.
Absolutely.
That's what made me successful as a loan officer, because, when you do your loans, they give you that big stack of papers. You don't know what all those are and what they mean. Every person that I close, okay, we're going to have 30 minutes before the day of close. We're going to go all this. I want to tell you is what you expect. And you're going to ask me all the questions you have. Then when we get in there, the title company is going to rush you, and I'm not going to let them rush you. If you want to read the whole daggum title, you can read it. If it takes you 2 hours, you can do that. Or you can ask me and I can summarize it for you. But I ask the questions. We have not because we ask not.
Right.
That's clue. I'm glad you said sitting down there with them monthly. Like I said, I keep Oprah in my head. Even as an accountant myself, I keep Oprah in my head. She looks at her books. There's not one check that's written that she hadn't seen, or where, she looks at her accounts,
Absolutely. Guess what?
Got billions of dollars.
Yeah, right. Guess what? We are out of time.
Whoa, that went fast.
It just goes fast, doesn't it? Oh my goodness.
Well, thank you all for the opportunity and for having me today. I really appreciate it. This has been amazing.
It's been fun, and it's been wonderful to visit with both of you. But let's go into our wrap-up round. Okay. So, Jean, you're going to run the wrap-up round, and you're going to ask Joy for her final thoughts on collaboration and her contact information, and then you're going to share your own. While you're both doing that, I will put your contact information out into the comments for folks. Okay, so Jean, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Regina. So I thank you all for joining us today. And listen, we've had a great talk, so I hope you've all enjoyed it so far. So Joy, tell us about your final thoughts and how can people reach out to you?
Well, my final thoughts are, whatever it is, just stay consistent, have a plan, and stay consistent. If you have it in your heart to do it, it will come to pass. You'll get it done. But also, as far as collaborating, make a list of all your old friends and buddies. Check up with them, see what they're doing, see who they know. 9 times out of 10, there is someone that they know that can use your product or your services. Or you can catch up with them and they may be the one that can use your products and services. They are also the ones that you can practice on. And you just never know. Most of my friends that I've caught up with, I just had my 41st class reunion. And there are so many people that are doing different things that have the opportunity to collaborate with them, doing the same type of formats, just interview a person. There is something that all 3 of us have said that I'm sure has affected at least one person. That's always my goal. Just if I could just touch one person, then that's the blessing. That's a blessing to me. So that's my last and final thought. Stay with it, get partners, and just have fun with it.
Awesome. And how can people reach out to you?
My name is spelled Joye. The E is silent, and my last name is Germany. It's spelled just like the country. And you can always reach me at joygermany@gmail.com or joy@joygermany.com. And on Instagram, I can be found as Joy Germany. And I also have a local phone number. It is 469-855-0475. And if we happen to have somebody out of the country, I have a toll-free number. It is 1-833-559-3600. I'm a numbers person. I almost forgot that
one. You heard it, everyone. So pretty much she's not lacking in resources. You can find her in different ways. All right. So she covered it all right there. So for me, my final thoughts were, listen, you got to collaborate with people that are either ahead of you or in the same position of you, or maybe they're just starting out and they're a little behind you. But somebody out there has something that you have either done or wanted to do that you can actually tap into and helping you get what you want done. So that's my final thoughts on that. And if you want to reach out to me directly, reach out to me on my Instagram. My Instagram handle is @j.x as in X-ray, FRANCOIS. And we definitely can have a talk and seeing how we can collaborate.
Awesome. Thank you both for being here today. This has been a great conversation. I've enjoyed it tremendously. You're both so talented. You contribute so much to the world. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So with that, folks, we're going to say goodbye for today, and we'll see you next time on Collaboration Conversations. Bye for now.
Goodbye.